Hello everyone and welcome to our Spring Boot RESTful API tutorial at Simplilearn. In this comprehensive tutorial, we will be exploring building a powerful RESTful API using Spring Boot, which is a Java-based backend framework. Whether you are a beginner or an experienced developer, this tutorial is going to walk you through the essentials of creating the REST API. We will cover topics like how to create project structure, defining controllers, implementing service classes, managing repositories, and finally, we are going to test our API. Now, before we move on and learn more about it, I request you guys that do not forget to hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon. So now, let us discuss our agenda for our today's session. So guys, we are going to start with an introduction to Spring Boot and RESTful APIs. Next, we will be moving ahead with setting up our Spring Boot project. Then, we are going to define the data models and entities. Moving ahead, we will also be implementing our control layer. And finally, we are going to conclude our session with developing the service layer.
Craving a career upgrade? Subscribe, like, and comment below. Dive into the link in the description to fast-track your ambitions. Whether you're making a switch or aiming higher, Simplilearn has your back.
Just a quick info guys, you can accelerate your career as a certified Java full stack developer and acquire essential industry skills such as React, Angular, Spring Boot, Hibernate and JSPs, while mastering MVC and web services to craft highly scalable web applications. Hurry up now and join the course. The course link is mentioned in the description box.
So guys, let's start with what is Spring Boot. Guys, Spring Boot is an open source Java-based framework which is developed by Pivotal. Now it's a part of VMware that simplifies the process of building and deploying standalone production-ready Spring-based applications. It aims to provide a streamlined way to set up Spring-based applications with minimal configuration, which allows developers to quickly bootstrap their project and focus more on writing business logic rather than setting up infrastructure. Now let us discuss the key features of Spring Boot. First one we have all over here is convention over configuration. Spring Boot uses sensible defaults and conventions to reduce the amount of configuration required. This means developers can get started with minimal setup and frameworks will automatically configure many aspects of the application based on these conventions. Second one is standalone. Spring Boot applications are designed to be standalone and self-contained, meaning they can be deployed as executable jar files with embedded application servers like Tomcat, Jetty, or Undertow, or even as a WAR files in traditional servlet containers. Third one is auto-configuration. Spring Boot provides auto-configuration, which automatically configures the application based on dependencies present in the class path. This eliminates the need for manual configuration in many cases, as Spring Boot can automatically detect and configure components such as data sources, messaging systems, and web servers. Fourth one is Spring Boot starters. Spring Boot includes a collection of starters that simplifies dependency management by bundling commonly used libraries and frameworks for specific use cases. For example, web applications, data access, security into easy-to-use dependencies. Developers can simply include these starters in their project, and Spring Boot will automatically configure the necessary dependencies. Fifth one is Actuator. Spring Boot Actuator provides production-ready features to monitor and manage the application in production environments. It includes endpoints for health checks, metrics, environment information, logging, and many more, which allows developers to easily monitor and manage their applications. Sixth one is Spring Boot CLI. Spring Boot CLI allows developers to quickly prototype and develop Spring Boot applications using command line interface. It provides commands for creating, running, and testing Spring Boot applications without the need for complex build configuration. Overall, Spring Boot simplifies the development process of Spring-based applications by providing a set of opinionated defaults like auto-configuration and a range of tools and features that enables developers to build robust and production-ready applications with minimal effort. Now we will move to the Eclipse and create a simple REST API. So guys, in this tutorial, we are going to build a REST API. You might be wondering what a REST API is. First of all, let me explain you. REST API stands for Representational State Transfer Application Programming Interface. It is a kind of a service architecture which is designed to allow communication between different software systems over the internet. It follows the principle of REST, which emphasizes stateless communication, uniform resource identifiers for resource identification, and use the standard HTTP methods like GET, POST, PUT, and DELETE for performing action on resources. So guys, let us build and employ REST API with controller, entity, service, and repository classes in Java. So let me explain you what will be the class files. The first one will be the entity class. In the entity class, guys, we are going to define our model. For example, in an employee REST API, what are the main things that we are going to need? For example, the name of the employee, the department, and what is the salary. Then, we will be using the repository interface. So guys, you will be wondering, why would we need a repository class? Guys, basically repository class is responsible for interacting with the database or any storage mechanism for performing CRUD operation, which means create, read, update and delete operations on the database. The repository class abstracts away the details of data access by providing a clean separation between the data layer and the rest of the application. It allows for easier testing and maintenance by centralizing data access logic. Second one we have all over here is service class. Guys, service class contains the business logic of the application. It orchestrates various operations, coordinates between different components, and performs complex business rules and validation. Service class promotes separation of concerns by keeping business logic separate from web layer and data access layer. It enhances code readability, reusability, and testability by encapsulating the application's code logic in a single place. And finally, we have the controller class. The controller class handles the incoming HTTP request, processes them, and returns appropriate responses. It typically contains methods or endpoints mapped to different URI and HTTP methods defining API's behavior. But why do we need it? The controller class acts as an entry point for external clients to interact with the application. It receives requests, delegates the processing to the service layer, and returns responses. It helps in achieving clean separation of concerns by keeping the web-related logic separate from the business logic and the data access logic. I hope so you would have got a brief idea regarding these classes. Now, let us make these classes. So what we have to do first? Guys, let us go to Spring Initializer. This is a website where we are going to download all our dependencies. We'll be needing Spring Data JPA and Spring Starter Web. So let us add the dependencies. So here I'm going to type Spring Web. Okay, just add this dependency and also add the next one, that is Spring Data JPA. Okay. Now, our project building tool will be Maven. Just click on this and let us choose 3.1.11 version because I am using Java 17, so I feel so the older version of Spring Boot would be compatible with it. Now let us update our metadata. So let us say com.example.rest API, or let us give some other name such as employee. And here also we are going to type employee. Now let us generate the zip file and let us extract this zip file. So I'm going to go on my downloads. So we can see all over here, we have the employee zip file. Just click on this and click on extract all. Now go to downloads and you can see our employee file has been extracted. Now we'll be going to the Eclipse, okay, and here we are going to import our project. So you can see this option all over here. Just click on Maven, okay. So you can see this is Maven, and click on existing Maven projects. Just click on next. So it is going to tell you to browse the root directory. Go on to the downloads. As you know, we have downloaded all over here, and just select this folder and click on finish. Now, as you can see, we have downloaded our folder and it is visible all over here. You can see all these files such as Java, resources, and test. Let me explain you each one of them one by one. So this is our main application file, and you can see in a Spring Boot application, you would get this annotation as Spring Boot, which tells that, hey Spring, this is a Spring Boot based application and which is basically built on the Spring framework. Now, let us go to the resources. In the resources, you get application.properties. In this, generally, we add a lot of other things, such as we can customize our port number. If you are using the MySQL database, we have to also add all the other information, such as your username, password. Okay. Similarly, for testing, we have srctest.java. The most important file to understand is pom.xml file. Guys, this is pom.xml file. This file tells the Apache Maven to download all the necessary dependencies, such as the Spring Data JPA, Spring Startup Web, the test, there is a Maven plugin. Okay, so you can see these are all closed under the dependencies section. And you can see also the version of Java we are using. We are using Java 17. And you can see all our metadata has been stored all over here. And it is very important file for our project. Now let us create our other files. So we are going to go on main.java and let us open this file and let us run this file first. So guys, you can see all over here that it is telling it is failed to run. So sometimes you are going to get this error. The reason is we have already added the Spring Data JPA dependency, and because of that it is showing the error. No worries. Let us move forward and let us create all the other classes first. So let us go into the package. Let's create a new package all over here. So here, say this is entity. And let's create the class. Let's click on finish. Similarly, we are going to create a repository class. Similarly, we are going to create our controller class. And finally, we are going to create our service class. Now we have created all these classes all over here. Now let us start writing some of the codes to understand what we are going to do. So basically, as we have discussed, that we are going to create our model first. So let us click on the entity. Okay, this is our employee.java. So let us consider a scenario where we are creating a simple REST API. So for employee, we need its ID, name, and what department they are working in. Okay guys, so let us create certain annotation for the same. So this will be our entity class, so we are going to use the entity annotation. Okay. Now here, let us create the ID. Okay. Now @ID would be there, @generated value, and here we are going to add the strategy equals to generation type dot identity. Now let us declare our fields. So first would be ID and access modifier would be private. Next one would be name. So third one would be department. We can also keep this access modifiers as private. And let us choose for salary as double. Okay, that would be our data type for it. And finally, let us create the constructors and getters and setters. Now you could see there are errors coming up. So in order to remove the error, just hover upon this and you could see we have to import certain things. Now earlier it was JavaX persistence. Now we are importing entity from Jakarta. That is a slight change that has happened all over here. So let's click on entity. This is ID type import ID. And here for generation value, here we are going to import it from Jakarta.persistence. Now our all errors are removed. Now let us do one thing. Just click on source. And you could see generate getters and setters. Select all and click on generate. Next thing is we have to also generate constructors. So click on source, generate constructors using fields. Click this option and click on generate. So you could see all over here, we have generated all our constructors. So this is the constructors, which is all automated. Okay, this is the beauty of Eclipse, and this is the getters and setters. So finally, we have created our model. Now let us move to the next part, that is repository. So guys, earlier I have told you that why do we need repository class? The reason is because it is very responsible for interacting with the database or any data storage mechanism. It typically performs all the CRUD operation, and that's why we need to create this class. So let us delve into the repository section. And here, the line of code is very less in this section. Just you have to extend this to the JPA repository. So this is basically an interface. So I did one mistake all over here. Let us create an interface for this first. Okay, click on interface and it will be employee repository. Click on finish. Okay, this is done. Now public interface employee repository, and this is going to extend the JPA repository. Basically JPA repository has all the pre-built tools. This is basically an interface which is going to help us give us all the methods and functionalities for interacting with any database. So let's type extends JPA repository. This will be employee, the name of our model, and here will be type would be long. Now you have to import this. So let us import this, and also you have to import the employee. So finally we have imported all the things. We are going to leave it empty all over here for the sake of purpose, but there are certain additional methods which we can do it. But we are going to stick to the minimal right now. Now let us create the service class. Just click on all over here, and how Spring is going to understand that this is a service class. So the answer is, guys, service annotation. Let us type that annotation. Okay. This is employee service, and now we are going to use one more pattern that is called dependency injection. So guys, we all know that this framework is basically working on dependency injection. We are going to inject the repository instance of repository all over here. And so for Spring to understand that we have injected, we are going to use an annotation that is auto-wired. So type auto-wired and we're going to type private employee repository and just we can type ER all over here. Now let us import this. Okay. Next we are going to also import the auto-wired. Finally, we have also imported the employee repository. And ER is an instance. Now we are going to do certain things all over here. And the first thing is, let us create a list of employee to get all the employees. So public list employee, and here we are going to type get all employee. And basically it is going to return er dot find all method from the repository. Now let us import this list first. Okay, and here we are going to import the employee. Basically, this method is going to return details of all the employees. Next, if we have to find the ID of a particular employee, so for that purpose, public employee get employee by ID method. And here we are going to use a data type as long. And with the help of this instance ER, so we are going to return ER dot find by ID method. So the parameter will be ID, and here we can use or also, or else we could enter as null if the employee doesn't exist. Now next would be adding the employee. So guys, for adding the employee, we are going to create this method, same. So I'm not going to type it all over again. Let's copy and paste. So public employee, and let's say add employee. So the method would be and we are going to create an instance all over here of employee. Okay. Now here we are going to return er.save method. Okay, we are going to save this entity and just add the instance e all over here. And finally, we have a method for updating the employee. So it will be long ID, and we can create an instance employee and say e, and we can do certain conditionals all over here. So if the given employee exists by its ID, so we can do something like this, er dot exist by ID. So we can see this method is there. Just click on this, and after this, what we have to do, guys, we can set its ID. So click on all over here. So e dot set ID, and it will be ID. And finally, let's add the return statement for this. Return er dot save, and the entity would be e. So that works pretty fine all over here. Now let us see what the error is coming up. Now it works pretty fine. And finally, we are going to add a delete method. Okay, so public void delete employee. Data type would be long, and it would be ID. So er dot, we can say delete by ID method. So can we see the method? So here is the method, delete by ID. Just click on this, and it works pretty fine. Now let us make this code a little bit correct, or we can say return null. Okay. So finally, guys, after a lot of hard work, we have created our service class. Guys, if you are doing for the first time, please don't be afraid. A lot of mistakes are going to happen, but we all know the fact that the more mistakes we are going to do, the more we are going to learn. So let us move forward with the next, and the final one, we have the controller class. Now, in the controller class, we are going to add all the HTTP verbs like get, put, delete, so that in the service class, what are the logics we have added, we can access it on the URL. So let us go to the controller class, and finally, we are using a REST controller. So let us put the annotation as REST controller. Import this. Okay. Finally, let's do the okay, since this is REST controller. Okay, now let us create a request mapping too, so that when we are mapping the given URL, so our URL would be /employee. Okay. Okay. Now let us import this request mapping Now finally, what we will do, we are going to also inject the instance of service. So we are going to type the auto wired. Okay, and here would be private employee service, and we can create the instance as ES. Okay. So let us import this service and let us import the auto wired. Okay. Now let us do the get mapping first. So get mapping, and how we are going to get a particular employee. So the answer is with its particular ID. And here let us type slash, and with respect to its particular ID, we are going to access the given employee. Let us create a method for the same. So public employee. So basically it is going to be a list. So okay, get all employees. Return ES, that's the instance we have injected from the service class, and the method would be get all employees. Now it's done, but it's still showing certain errors. Let us resolve the error. First we have to import the list. Second, we have to import the employee. Okay. And finally, we have to import the get mapping from org spring framework.webbind annotation. Okay. Now initially I have told you certain features about Spring Boot, and I hope so you would be seeing that how our development is getting easier little by little. So most of the thing like you would have seen like when you were in college, basically you would have thought like we have to do a lot of coding, but actually coding is reduced a lot, because here in this ID is a very smart ID, okay, and we can just import the things one by one, and all the methods you could see it suggests, so that makes our work pretty easy. Now let us create a post request, and at the rate post mapping, and here will be public employee, and say add employee. So for adding employee, we're going to type the request mapping. Okay, this is the parameter. So requesting the body. Okay, this annotation tells that hey Spring, whenever we are posting any post request to the web server, we need a body. Without that, this request is incomplete. So for that, this annotation is used. And finally, we are going to add the employee. So return ES.add employee, and the instance is E that we have created all over here. Now let us import certain things. So we have imported the post mapping. Let us import the request body annotation, and finally let us close it with a delimiter. Now let us create the put mapping. So for put mapping, this would be /id, and here the method would be public employee, say update employee, and for updating a given employee, suppose I have added the name as say Neil, and say department is you can say sales, and the salary is around like 30,000. But finally there is a program happened and the designation has been changed. Okay, now he has moved to the marketing role. So for that, what we are going to do, we have to update that particular the data for that employee. In order to do that, guys, what we are going to add? So we are going to add the particular path for which this update is going to happen. And for that, there is a particular annotation that is path variable. So just add the path variable. And here the data type would be long, ID, and we are also going to request the body all over here. Pretty fine. So @request body annotation. So because without body, this request would be incomplete. So basically for updating any data, we use the put request. Okay. So request body annotation, and the instance would be employee, and say emp, not say e. And finally, we are going to call our update service. So return es dot update employee ID. Okay. And the instance we have injected is A. So that makes our work pretty easier. Now let us import. So we have imported the port mapping, path variable, and this is pretty much done. Now finally, we are going to create an annotation for delete mapping. And it would be ID. So for deleting, we are going to use a delete method. So public void delete employee, and here will be the path variable. Let us use the annotation. And we are going to call the return statement. So you can see this method pops up. Just click on this and let's close this. Okay. Now let us import delete mapping. Okay. I think there's something wrong has happened. Let us debug it. Return es dot delete given employee by its ID.
So guys, we have come to the final part of the video. Now let us run our application. So in order to run the application, you have to just select all and you can type run as Java application, or you can directly click all over here. So guys, I've already started my application and my application is running. Okay, we can see certain failure. So let us rerun the application. So guys, you can see all over here, our server has started. Now let us test our APIs. So what we are going to do, we are going to go at this Postman, which is an API testing tool. And for this port 8081 we are using, and our endpoint is employees. So let us try to add one employee. So remember guys, for sending a post request, you have to always add a body. So you can see I will add one name. Okay, say Johnny Van Zandt, and he's a musician, and I'm going to add. Okay. Now for the headers, you have to add application.json. It will be content type, and you can also add a description. Now let us try to send this request. So you can see our ID is automatically generated, and name Johnny Van Zandt, department, and salary has been added. Now guys, as you can see all over here, after triggering the GET request, we could see
we are getting ID name as 1, name as Johnny Van Zandt, and department is musician, and the salary. So all the data which we have added using the post request, we are returned. Now this is simple and basic REST API we have created using Spring Boot. I hope so you would have enjoyed our today's video on Spring Boot tutorial. Thank you for watching this.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.